Peaky Blinders is a crime drama that stretched across 6 seasons. It held viewers' attention from 2013 to 2022. Some compare the series in popularity to such giants as Game of Thrones. From 2014 to 2020, the show collected numerous prestigious awards, repeatedly receiving the prize for Best Drama Series, not to mention other nominations. Remarkably, even the lockdown of 2020 did not prevent the filming of the series or the timely release of new episodes on the screen. The creator of the idea was Stephen Knight, a British screenwriter and director known for such works as Dirty Pretty Things, Eastern Promises, Luck and Hummingbird. In the last two, Knight combined the roles of the screenwriter and director. Interestingly, Stephen once worked on the project Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. However, he is not the only one involved in the show who has experience creating reality television. The creator did not invent the idea out of thin air. He successfully compiled the sensational criminal stories of Britain of the late 19th to the early 20th century with the personal experiences of his own parents. The series is based on events that took place in the first half of the 20th century. My parents, especially my father, often recalled those times when he was 10 years old. They dressed well, they were wealthy, they were feared and respected in the neighborhood, and they were gangsters. In a sense, I want Peaky Blinders to be a kind of look at the world through the eyes of the 10-year-old child who sees that people are smarter and stronger and more beautiful and the horses are bigger. And overall, the whole world is big and frightening. While claiming that this series is based on a true story of a real gang, the author is somewhat disingenuous. Indeed, in Birmingham, and not only there, amid poverty and unemployment, many criminal groups formed. They existed both before the First World War and after it, and indeed, one of them for a time bore the name Peaky Blinders. At that point, the real basis in fact ends. The infamous Peaky Blinders were merely one of many gangs, not the strongest and not the most numerous. The members of this gang were working-class youth. Interestingly, if one reads actual historical chronicles, numerous gangs of laborers arose not so much from a lack of work as from a lack of adequate entertainment. Many gang members had jobs and housing and engaged in robbery strictly in their spare time. Nevertheless, the Peaky Blinders left their mark on British history, and that happened because these lads were not only criminals but also dandies. Their desire to dress more richly and brightly than was considered appropriate for the working class set this otherwise ordinary gang apart from the rest. However, there is an important difference between the series and real history. The real Peaky Blinders terrorized Birmingham roughly from the 1890s to early 20th century and had ceased to exist by the beginning of the First World War. At first, the gang specialized mainly in street fights, picking on pub patrons and other ordinary citizens. Large-scale schemes and major crimes were not their style. Gradually, the gangsters' interests shifted towards racetracks, and reports of brazen raids on bookmakers began to fill not only local newspapers. The population was outraged by inaction or helplessness of the police, but at that time, justice was rather lenient toward the unruly groups of idle youths. To this day, it has not been precisely established why the gang Peaky Blinders received its name. Perhaps it was indeed solely because of the style of their caps, the 8-panel flat cap with a tapering peak, or perhaps because of their manner of attacking passers-by, approaching from behind, pulling the victim's head down over their eyes and simply emptying their pockets. The version adopted by Stephen Knight's series is considered the least plausible. Allegedly, the gang members sewed razor blades into the peaks of their stylish caps and used their headgear as a weapon. Be that as it may, contrary to popular belief, the police and government undertook a number of quite effective measures to reduce the number of youth gangs. As a result of these actions, the real Peaky Blinders were suppressed as early as 1902. It is likely that in addition to his parents' stories, Stephen Knight and his story were influenced by works such as The Godfather. They inspired him to move the Birmingham hooligans into an atmosphere closer in spirit to American Depression of the 1930s. If historical accuracy is not the most important aspect of a drama, even a crime drama, then creating the right atmosphere must be approached with great care. To give viewers the sense of immersion in reality of Birmingham between the two world wars, the showrunners of Peaky Blinders had to work hard. Modern Birmingham did not meet the filmmakers' needs. It has changed too much over the past century, and pieces of the past had to be gathered from across the country. The story of Tommy Shelby and his family begins in Liverpool. The gloomy Liverpool Powys street, bearing the marks of past fires, perfectly conveys the dark, oppressive atmosphere of the poor working-class districts of Old England. An important location was the Black Country Living Museum in Dudley, West Midlands. This open-air exhibition shows visitors Britain during the era of industrialization, and it would be hard to find a better place to create a specific atmosphere of Peaky Blinders. Old shops, factories, workers' houses, all required minimal intervention from the set designers. A home for Aunt Polly was found once again in Liverpool, this time in Port Sunlight. The imposing Victorian mansion now serves as a museum. But in the 1930s, it would undoubtedly have been a luxurious gift to a relative who had earned a bit of peace. Tommy Shelby's difficult path into high society demands a reward for him as well. Now the poor districts are no place for wealthy and powerful gangsters. In the series, the residence of crime boss is portrayed by the Ashbrook family's property, Arley Hall in Cheshire. The owners often rent their monumental estate for filming various movies and shows. Most of the time, the complex is open to visitors as a vivid representative of British aristocratic history, and the owners invest considerable funds and effort to maintain it in condition. However, Kesterton Hall, where Tommy Shelby hides at the beginning of the 4th season, has a far more impressive history. The family that owns it received rights to the land in the 13th century. The documents issued to them by the Earl of Lancaster state that the plot was granted in exchange for a horse. Since 1480, several generations of the Hurt family have owned the house, which was already appeared on screen many times. Jane Eyre, episodes of Sherlock Holmes and Hercule Poirot were filmed here. It was the turn of Peaky Blinders. Of course, work hard to be done on the interior, but the owners of Kesterton Hall, like those of Arley Hall, allow certain liberties in their homes on the condition that the filmmakers restore everything to its original state. The scene of the confrontation between Tommy Shelby and Alfie Solomons takes us back to Liverpool once again. This tense moment was filmed on Formby Beach. The endless sea, ridges of sand dunes, the gloomy sky covered with leaden clouds, such scenery leaves even the most discerning viewer unmoved. The Victoria Baths in Manchester, now serving as a cultural center, became the meeting place of the main character and his beloved May Carlton. Although, according to the plot, the episode takes place at a racetrack, the old baths now used as a wedding venue, add romance to the atmosphere. Of course, for those who know this. The culmination of Tommy and Grace's relationship was placed by the showrunners at Keighley Station and the Worth Valley Railway in Yorkshire.
Once the Bronte sisters strolled through the Keighley station, and now an important episode of the popular series unfolds here. According to modern media, participation in the show enhances the cultural value of this location. The set designers had to work extremely hard. Sometimes in a single filming day, several completely different locations had to be assembled. Churchill's office, a prison, an interrogation room, all these places could exist from several days to just a few hours. Grant Montgomery, head of set design for Peaky Blinders, carried out titanic work in finding locations and developing believable designs. In the first season alone, Grant created 48 different sets, and by the second season, their number had reached 120. In pursuit of authentic shots, the filming crew visited Leeds, Bradford, Keighley, and the town of Baldon, studying for London. In fact, the entire country became a filming location. Quite an impressive geography, isn't it? After all, this is precisely what often distinguishes good cinema from bad in the first place. Stephen Knight strictly limited his consumption of crime series while writing the script. And not without reason, although Peaky Blinders was constantly compared to certain other shows, the creator sincerely aimed to produce something original. A commendable ambition, since television screens are literally flooded with similar crime dramas. Still, compared to the lead actor, Stephen Knight's suffering looks almost amusing. The non-smoking actor Cillian Murphy, who plays the main character Tommy Shelby in the drama, had to smoke about 3,000 cigarettes per season. Naturally, the modern fashion for a healthy lifestyle would have seemed at least ridiculous at the beginning of the 20th century. The crew had to find a solution to this delicate situation, since Murphy flatly refused to smoke real cigarettes. Special props were created for him. The rolls-up Tommy Shelby smokes on the screen were actually filled with fairly harmless herbs. Even so, Cillian complained that inhaling the smoke of this imitation masterpiece was unpleasant, especially in such quantities. But smoking was not the only thing that troubled the lead actor. Cillian Murphy also disliked his hairstyle. Still, he must truly have loved the role. After all, he endured that inconvenience on his head for 6 seasons. A good actor differs from a mediocre one by taking roles seriously, so Cillian Murphy, in order to accurately convey his character's manner of speech, spent a long time communicating with Birmingham Romani communities. Pronunciation issues were not avoided by Sam Neill, who portrayed Inspector Campbell. Sam Neill is Irish by origin but grew up in New Zealand. To appear convincing on screen, he essentially had to relearn how to speak. Well-known Irish actors James Nesbitt and Liam Neeson helped him to acquire the proper accent. They did their job so well that the dialect Neil mastered became completely incomprehensible to American audiences. The accent had to be softened since the show was intended for promotion in the United States as well. Perhaps they overdid it, but what titanic effort! Not everyone needed teachers to master a specific way of speaking. For example, Helen McCrory managed on her own by endlessly listening to tracks by Ozzy Osbourne. As a result, Aunt Polly, whose steady leadership preserved the gang during the First World War, speaks with an accent reminiscent of the world-famous rock musician. Some might have enjoyed that forever, but sadly not. Helen McCrory passed away in 2021 before completing the filming of the 6th season. The actress suffered from breast cancer, which she kept hidden from everyone. Since not all her scenes had been filmed, the crew had to improvise. Aunt Polly had to be declared dead earlier than planned. In the series, we see her funeral and a tribute to the actress in the credits. Despite evident linguistic challenges, no major consultants were involved in the overall production, which seems rather surprising. Still, history is written by the winner and the series became overwhelmingly popular. What else distinguishes Peaky Blinders from the thousands of crime dramas produced on this planet? Surprisingly, many find it interesting that several family brigades of actors appeared in this show. The performers of Alfie Solomons and May Carlton, Tom Hardy and Charlotte Riley, are a married couple. They met while filming another show, Wuthering Heights by the BBC, and married in 2014 when the second season of Peaky Blinders was on air. The show also features two real brothers, young actors Joe Cole and Finn Cole. Their characters are also brothers, though cousins in the storyline, John Shelby and Michael Gray. Notably, the Cole brothers received a solid career boost from Peaky Blinders. Joe went on to roles in film Green Room and the series Black Mirror. Finn even appeared in F9. Unlike them, Harry Curtin from Northfield, who played the youngest gangster Finn, was not originally an actor. The crew deliberately searched for an ordinary young man with no stage experience and ultimately found Harry. He claims that his brothers helped him to immerse himself in the role, and Cillian Murphy often offered essential advice to the newcomer. Of course, Steven Knight had hoped to see Jason Statham in the cast. Unfortunately, Jason declined due to commitments to other projects. Later, Knight even decided that this was for the best. He doubted whether Statham could convincingly adopt the proper accent, which might have affected the series' atmosphere. There are also rumors that despite its attachment to old world conventions, Peaky Blinders was originally inspired by American westerns. Allegedly, Steven Knight admired the free romantic spirit of simple American herdsmen, whom the world calls cowboys without reflecting on the meaning of the word. And so Tommy Shelby rides into Birmingham on horseback like a hero from the timeless masterpieces of Clint Eastwood. The pursuit of originality also appeared in the title soundtrack. Nick Cave is himself a rather ambiguous performer. Red Right Hand was heard not only in the British series but also in the American comedy Dumb and Dumber. Frankly, if viewers see some reference in this, that is on the creators. As for the music that does not correspond to the historical era, there is nothing terrible about it. Any melody in feature production is meant to bring a certain harmony. And if harmony in Peaky Blinders is achieved with the help of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, the Black Keys, the White Stripes, Arctic Monkeys and Radiohead, then so be it. 6 seasons of Peaky Blinders have been released worldwide, but the story of Tommy Shelby is not intended to end there. According to Steven Knight's concept, the finale of Birmingham Gang's story is set at the beginning of the Second World War and should unfold under the accompaniment of the first fascist bombings. At first, viewers were promised a 7th season, but instead, in 2021, the producer announced that there would be no 7th season. Instead, they declared that the continuation would take the form of a feature-length film. And the miracle has happened. The film Peaky Blinders: The Immortal Man is set to be released in March 2026. Patient viewers will once again meet Cillian Murphy as Tommy Shelby and reunite with other beloved characters from the popular series. In addition, the BBC and Netflix announced in 2025 the production of a spin-off of Peaky Blinders, 2 full seasons of 6 episodes each. Well, we shall see what comes of it. Despite all his attraction to romanticism and his desire to portray Thomas Shelby in a somewhat romantic light, Steven Knight understands perfectly well that turning a criminal into a hero is wrong. Peaky Blinders does not smooth over brutal scenes just as Game of Thrones does not. The idea that violence is illegal and repulsive and that worshipping those who bring it is harmful was conveyed quite effectively by the creators of both popular series. It is precisely the absence of glamorization of human wrongdoing that unites these two grand yet very different projects in spirit. Yes, Steven Knight also strives to show the other side of the coin. He himself once said about his series, "I want to make a series about a man burned out from within, who cannot love, who feels nothing when we first meet him. I want to follow his journey with his companions who are essentially his family, because all of us have family. Everyone is in love with someone. Everyone is busy with something. And my hero will soon meet people who will touch his heart." How successfully the author managed to turn the soul of a hardened criminal inside out without smoothing over reality is for you, the viewers, to judge. But one cannot fail to appreciate the titanic work carried out by the entire filming crew. And that's all for me. If you liked this video, don't forget to rate it, subscribe to this channel and hit the bell. For me, your activity is the best reward. Thank you for your attention. See you soon. Bye.